Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This is another episode of our real estate market update all across America. And today we're visiting Charlotte, North Carolina. This segment is being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. When you go to booksgrowbusiness.com, this is for professionals and entrepreneurs that want to grow their business and leave a legacy. So joining me on the call today is Leigh Brown. She's the CEO of One Community Real Estate based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Leigh, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark. It's an honor to be here.
Leigh, tell us a little bit about your business and the type of folks that you specialize in helping.
Well, I'm a 20-year realtor in one of the fastest growing markets in the United States. But what's fun about Charlotte is it's the only big city that always says North Carolina. You're Chicago, but they never say Illinois. So what's happening here is that with our low cost of living and 4 seasons, great quality of life, a lot of jobs are coming here. So our market is flourishing. And because our land acquisition and availability is still there, it's still quite affordable in the grand scheme of things. Even though like many areas, we're still seeing a lot of pressure in the lower price points. My average price point hangs out around the 365 mark, which is really great in a low interest rate environment because it's cheaper to buy than to rent if we can get a hold of a house. Of course, like many other parts of the country, we're experiencing crazy low levels of inventory. So you really have to have a strategy in place to win, but it's doable.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll tell you, North Carolina still has a cool ring to it where Illinois is just kind of weird. So people, is it Illinois? Is it Illinois? What is it? So we leave it out for sure. So Leigh, what's on the mind of most people in the country today is how's this pandemic affected your real estate market in particular?
Well, people are just a little bit on edge, and it's kind of interesting that we have a lot of sellers who were intending to sell who did not put the house on the market because they were too nervous about strangers walking in. But buyers don't seem to have that same kind of nervous behavior. They'll walk into anything just to have it. So we've got already low levels of inventory that were further suppressed by the pandemic. And of course, luckily, construction was an essential service in North Carolina, so our builders were able to keep going. But with the influx of people from all over the country who are seeking a different quality of life and a different lifestyle, the demand is just far outstripping supply. So I do think that what's happened with the pandemic era, we'll continue to see those pressures because interest rates are still so low. And even as they start to rise, when we start to see some of the liquidity issues and the inflationary pressures that are going to happen because of the pandemic, we're still going to be ahead of the curve here, which is a good pressure release valve for buyers who are always scared of a bubble. But luckily, during the last recession, Charlotte showed that if you're a blue chip style market, the bubble may look like it's really bad, but really we're increasing in a path that can be justified economically. And when cyclical times of downturn come, Charlotte just kind of goes, we just deflate a little bit instead of falling off a cliff. So that gives people peace of mind to go ahead and move forward.
So unlike many areas of the country with low inventory and no construction going on, it sounds like you still have some potential growth and still construction happening. And the low interest rates is still that motivator. When people are calling you now, have you noticed a change in their priorities, in what they're looking for with their real estate, whether they're buying and selling? What's been different?
I wouldn't say it's a change in priority, but if you look at the wish list, we've seen some shifting a little bit on that list. The home office was already something people requested prior to the pandemic, but now it's become something you must have because in addition to people working from home, people are schooling from home, whether it's because of fear or because the school districts are virtual. And we're actually watching that commercial piece for the next 3 to 5 year period. How many of our companies are going to take a permanent downsize and say, hey, our employees are actually working longer hours at home, let's let them stay there. And so I think the home office will definitely be something that's a future must-have. The interesting one, though, Mark, is the pool. Pools in the past had been a very polarizing feature because you'd have some people that said, absolutely not, no way on the planet do I want a pool in the yard. And then you'd have other people from colder climates like yours that really want one because you can use it longer here. with the pandemic, more people want a pool because they want that home resort environment where they don't have to share with strangers and they can do staycations at home and have that quality of life that's been one of the honestly nice blessings of pandemic. We've learned how to spend more time with our families and enjoy it.
Very interesting insights. Leigh, tell me and tell our listeners, how did you get started in real estate? What inspired you?
My dad became a realtor in 1978, so I grew up around open houses and doing flyers and showings and everything else. And like most kids of realtors, I swore I was not going to do real estate, didn't want to do what Daddy did. And so I went to Manhattan as a stockbroker, but with an accent like mine, you are kind of looked down upon in Manhattan, and that was not my jam. And then I became the only woman salesperson for a premium chainsaw company. So I sold chainsaws for a while, enjoyed that job. But corporate life is hard to adjust to when you're built to be an entrepreneur. And so I wound up in real estate, and it's where I've been happily ever since.
Fantastic. Before I ask you my last question, for home buyers or sellers that have been on the fence today, but really considering it, what would be your number one piece of advice for them, and what's important for them to consider now more than ever?
The biggest thing to remember is that real estate's a long-term hold. And one of the problems with programs that you see on HGTV is they often talk about how flips are a great way to make money, and you see Property Brothers and Love It or List It, and you start thinking about real estate as a short-term money tool. But in reality, that home purchase is where you're going to fix supper. You're going to lay the kids down to sleep at night. Mama's going to come over and spend time with you. Your friends are going to come, have a glass of bourbon. It's a different kind of investment. And so you just got to buy it. And I'll tell you, Mark, I got into the business in 2000, and in the county where I live, the average price point 20 years ago was 148. Today in 2020, it's 268. And that's an investment that even when the markets for assets get really volatile and wild, your house doesn't get that volatile, because even if you had to sell it, there's some way to get out of it. There's a way to turn it into an investment property and rent it. But the reality is you got to have a roof over your head. So you can't always operate your life by fear. And the pandemic has made a lot of people lean into fear. You got to lean out of that and lean into the fact that houses are stable. And if you have a great realtor, you'll make a great choice. So it's really important to have a professional partner with you to help you make smart decisions, and frankly, be able to help you watch your budget. That's one of my main jobs in helping somebody make the decision, is let's look at your budget and let's make a smart decision together. I never want anybody to overspend, but I also don't want them to miss out on the benefits of home ownership.
With all of your experience, Leigh, for our listeners out there that are considering Charlotte and could certainly use your help, how can they find you and connect with you?
Well, the easiest place to find me is leighbrown.com, Leigh Brown.com. And that's where you can find my books. You can find my educational tools for realtors, because I do love educating realtors and I educate the public as well. There's videos for days if you want information on real estate. And of course, you can search for houses, because we know that's the most addictive thing to do on the internet. And I'd be honored to help you figure out if this is a place to live, invest, or frankly, just come visit. We'll help you find an Airbnb too.
Terrific. Leigh, thank you for taking the time and sharing with my listeners today. I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for having me on the show, and thank you for providing some insights around the country.
This segment was brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com, the place where professionals and entrepreneurs go to grow their business and leave a legacy. If you're looking for your first book or your next book, go to booksgrowbusiness.com. And until next time, take care. I'm Mark Imperial.